Welcome back to the channel, y'all. Today we are continuing with our tier list for Baldur's Gate 3, judging the classes and then their subclasses. In this video, we're going to be covering the Rogue. Here is our tier list so far. Now, when it comes to Rogue here, I need to make something very clear about the tier list and what we've been doing so far. We're judging the classes and their subclasses based purely on if you stay them the entire way 1 to level 12, meaning no multi-classing, no dipping, no splitting. That really comes into effect of how we're going to rank Rogue here because, well, staying a pure Rogue is something a lot of people don't do. But anyways, let's get started. Now the first Rogue subclass that we're going to rank is the Thief. Now every Rogue gets sneak attack. This adds a 1d6 to either your melee or your range attacks as long as you have advantage. And as you level up the Rogue, this sneak attack damage increases by another 1d6. So by level 12, you're doing an additional 6d6. This is a metric ton of damage that doesn't cost a class resource and you only have to have advantage with it. Really good. Now at level 3, that's when you get to pick your Rogue subclass. For Thief here, we get two class features or subclass features. We get Fast Hands, which is an additional bonus action. That's pretty good. And we also get second story work where we don't take as much falling damage. We're resistant to that sort of damage. But really, it's only that extra bonus action that I think is a big plus for this subclass. Now, it's not until level 9 that we get our next subclass feature, and it's Supreme Sneak. We basically get to cast invisibility on ourselves or invisible, and that costs an action, and we can do it between short rest. So when it comes to ranking the Thief here, gosh, this is a tough one because you can see that the sneak attack damage here, 23 to 58. You can only do this once per turn, but I have bad equipment on right now, and still that's a lot of damage as long as you have advantage. That's not very hard to do. But I will say that you're kind of locked into picking some feats, and I feel like some of the other classes can do this same job much better. It's either Thief here is either going to be in upper C tier or very low B tier for me. I think I have to stick it into C tier. And the next Rogue subclass is going to be the Assassin. Now at level 3 we get 3 subclass features here. We get Assassinate Initiative, so in combat you have advantage on your attack rolls against creatures that haven't taken a turn yet. That's pretty good, essentially because sneak attack, again, you need advantage for it, so that's a really easy way to get that. And then we also get Assassinate Ambush here, so successful attack rolls on surprise creatures, that's a guaranteed critical hit. Really good if you're that type of player that likes, again, to sneak before you get into combat and then open up a fight that way. I usually don't. I usually just kind of like to run in there and see what happens. So not necessarily my playstyle, but still really good. And the last feature here is Assassin's Alacrity. So at the beginning of every turn, even if you start it outside of combat, you're going to get your action and your bonus action right at the start of combat without losing it. Unfortunately, you can have a setting in your difficulty menu there that will basically give everybody Assassin's Alacrity. So that's a little unfortunate, but if you don't play with that setting on, this is still really good. In a nutshell, Assassins are basically a one-trick pony where their first turn, they are wiping somebody off the board, no questions asked. That's strong, really strong. The question then becomes, okay, what are they doing for the rest of the combat encounter, especially if fights last like 3 to 5 turns, even longer. I know really proficient players in this game, usually battles take 1 to 2 turns, generally. But new players, Assassin is probably not going to be for you unless you're just locked into playing that type of Rogue playstyle. Now, it's not until level 9 that you get your next subclass feature, and you get Infiltration Expertise, where you get to basically do disguise your character, that skill. And there are a ton of ways to do that in the game. It being an Assassin subclass feature here, it's not that it can't be useful. It's just, it's so readily available that it's just sort of like, okay, cool. And if you haven't noticed yet, yeah, Rogues, they're kind of very front loaded. Usually level 3 is when they get all their good features. And then after that, the rest are kind of like mediocre, underwhelming. So when it comes to ranking the Assassin subclass, you basically have a guaranteed way to get a critical hit. Take note that critical hits, yes, they do apply to sneak attack as well, meaning you do just delete a lot of enemies right off the bat, turn 1. But there's a little bit of planning involved, and then after you delete that character or enemy off the field, what do you do then? It's just like, okay. So unfortunately, Assassin kind of falls into the same spot as the Thief, except for the Thief at least has an extra bonus action to attack with. I think I have to stick this one into C tier as well. Maybe you could make a case for like low B tier, but yeah, guys, if this was, believe me, if this was a list that took into account multi-classing or splitting, Thief and Assassin would be up there in like A-, A tier easily. But we're just talking about the pure subclass, and this really just isn't my playstyle, and I don't see a lot of value in it compared to the other classes and other subclasses. God damn, Nomad, you sure are a Debbie Downer about the rogue. I'm not trying to be. Anyways, moving on. And next up is the Arcane Trickster, and this one has seen a huge buff since the final patch for Baldur's Gate 3, because Arcane Tricksters are essentially like spellcaster rogues. Cantrip wise, they get to pick up Booming Blade. This is a great damage option for melee characters that is a cantrip. You can do it once per turn, you only need an action, obviously you need to be in melee range. Huge, really good damage there. As far as the other cantrips, I'm not too worried about it. Spell wise, now their spell selection, not that great, but they do have access to the expanded spells. So something like Shield, Magic Missile, these are all really good choices. Arcane Trickster, there's a lot more than meets the eye when it comes to this subclass. And also, yes, Booming Blade can crit and then trigger your sneak attack as well. So this is a lot of damage stacking on top of itself, like if you build into critical hits with your Arcane Trickster. And while you're leveling up as an Arcane Trickster, you can replace spells. So you can take something like Color Spray off and then take a more useful spell, something like, again, Magic Missile. Maybe you don't have somebody with Long Strider or Enhanced Leap. A little bit of versatility when you're leveling up, giving you some options at least between levels, because the other rogues, there's not really a whole lot you're choosing when you're between levels. Now at level 7 here, we get access to our level 2 spell slots, and these spells that are available to us, not so good. I mean, Hold Person is pretty good, and so is Mirror Image, but let's take Invisibility, and actually we can do replace our spell. So again, we're using Color Spray in this example, and give ourselves something like, oh, I don't know, Shadow Blade, one of the best spells in the game, especially for a melee user. So Shadow Blade here, on top of Booming Blade, on top of our sneak attack. A lot of things stacking on top of itself for the Arcane Trickster, all baked into this subclass intrinsically. Love this. Really, really strong. Now, is this as strong as something like an Eldritch Knight? No, I don't think so in my opinion, but this is still a very good combination. And then at level 8, we get another choice as far as expanded spells. I would take something that does either AoE damage or uses your bonus action. We're just going to take Misty Step, and then we'll keep moving on. And then at level 9, we get our last subclass feature, Magical Ambush. So while we are hidden, enemies have disadvantage on their saving throws against our spells. This can be handy. Now, when it comes to ranking the Arcane Trickster, man, I really like, again, Booming Blade with your Shadow Blade. Get a crit, trigger sneak attack. Got to build into criticals. I think that goes without saying for every rogue there, but you do have to take some feats that are kind of mandatory for a rogue here. And it's good, but again, it falls into the trappings of no extra attack, and then not being able to choose a fighting style. And unlike the other two rogue subclasses, one really, in my opinion, really doesn't get going until that level like 7 mark. Prior to that, yeah, you'll have something like Booming Blade, but if you take like a Warlock that's a Hexblade, they get Booming Blade and they get Shadow Blade very early on top of like extra attack. So it's good on paper, what I'm saying here, but in the grand scheme of things, again, comparing it to other subclasses, I think I had to settle this one into like B tier. I don't think it can go any higher than that. And last, and certainly not least, is the subclass, the Swashbuckler, the latest addition to Baldur's Gate 3. Now, the subclass features we get: fancy footwork if we make a melee attack against a target. It then can't hit us with opportunity attack if we try to run away. We also get Rakish Audacity. We get a bonus to our initiative, which is going to increase with our rogue levels. And then we no longer need advantage to trigger our sneak attack as long as we're in like melee range, and then we ourselves don't have disadvantage. Funny story about Swashbuckler. Not a funny story, but true story. My buddy is obsessed with this subclass. He's not a D&D guy, but we do play Baldur's Gate 3. And we've made like 3 or 4 different campaigns with various friends. Every time he picks Swashbuckler now. He loves this subclass. Even when we try to persuade him to do another subclass or pick something else like Fighter, he does it for like maybe a couple encounters. He's like, I'm going back to Swashbuckler. Loves this subclass, and yeah, this one's pretty good. I like this subclass a lot. Let's keep going. Now at level 4, we get a lot of good subclass actions here. We get Dirty Trick, Flick of the Wrist, so we can disarm a target if they have a weapon, but it's also gonna give us advantage, and this is called Dirty Advantage. So one of the biggest problems I would say with melee characters, or everybody in general in the early game, is that attack roll. And a lot of people miss all the time. That's why I love using Bless, usually in like Act 1, kind of phases out during Act 2, but hitting targets is such a pain in the butt. Not with Swashbuckler here, because they're always giving themselves advantage that doesn't cost like a spell slot or a class resource. They just do it all on their own. We also get Vicious Mockery. It's going to do the same thing. This is a bonus action. And then we get Sand Toss, Pocket Sand.
Give it! Pocket sand!
So with these 3 actions here, we always have something to do with our bonus action that then sets up our regular attack there, which is going to be a sneak attack because we're going to have advantage. And we are just this basically full kit at level 4. Very deadly. Similar to, I would say, something like Gloomstalker that peaks early on and is just very strong because of how efficient they are with their action economy. Swashbuckler does the same thing. They're very good at singling out targets and basically moving from one person to the next and taking them out systematically. Now, like the other subclasses, their next subclass feature doesn't happen until level 9, and they get Panache, or as I like to say, Panake. Yeah.
Arrivederci. Arrivederci.
That's a joke if you've been with the channel for a while. But anyways, Panache here, this will give enemies a disadvantage on anybody else except for the Swashbuckler. But if they fail that roll, then they become charmed anyways, and then they can't attack the Swashbuckler. So this is an okay, I'd say, class action, but I'd rather be doing what we started back in level 4 there. That playstyle is just so good to me that Panache, it's okay. I think Swashbuckler, I'm going to stick it in A- tier because no matter what stage of combat it is, or before an encounter, middle of the encounter, they are always active with their bonus action and their action, and those are effective tools. Really like Swashbuckler. Maybe I'm being a little biased because of my friend, but I think that's where it sits. Alright y'all, that is the tier list for the Rogue. They have now been added to the roster. It looks something like this. We went ahead and moved Champion up. I could not in good faith put Champion below Thief and Assassin. I think Champion, just baseline fighter, is better than both of those subclasses, especially just in the middle of combat in my playstyle. Again, I like the bull rush in there. I don't like to do too much sneaking and opening up encounters that way. That's just my style. Let me know what you think about the Rogue down below, especially in Baldur's Gate 3 in general. I know, again, biggest complaints about Rogue is they don't get to pick out a weapon fighting style, and then they also don't get extra attack, but they do get other things. You know, they're really good at like lock picking and stuff outside of combat, but I don't know. You guys let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace, take care.